Today, I'm going to introduce you all to the first lesson of our main course book, First Flight. And the name of the lesson is A Letter to God. So, in this story, Letter to God, the main character or the protagonist is called Lencho. And Lencho had immense faith in God. He believed in God. So, the story, it starts with the farmer expecting a good rainfall. He wanted this rainfall to happen so that his corns get nourished. Now, what happened? And he was very confident that this year his harvest is going to yield him huge profit, just like it did every year. And to his utmost excitement, the sky was covered with clouds and it was about to rain. He was very happy. But what happened? His happiness disappeared because that rainfall, it turned into a hailstorm and it destroyed his crop. The damage was a threat to the family's survival because the whole family was dependent on that year's produce. Since the crop was destroyed, now it was posing a threat to the family. The family was very much disheartened. But Lencho had immense faith in God. Though he was a farmer who used to work day in and day out in the field, he knew how to write. So he thought he's going to write a letter to God, explaining his situation and asking for help because he was the only person whom he could ask for help. So what did he do? He wrote a letter to God and he himself went to town to post this letter addressed to God. Now when the people in the post office they noticed that there was a letter addressed to God, they were laughing. They laughed at it. But the postmaster, he was a very genuine person. So when he saw this letter addressed to God, he came to know about the simplicity of Lencho, that people like him exist who have faith in God. So now he wanted to keep his faith in God. This letter motivated him. He wanted to do something for the farmer so that his belief on God, it remains intact. So what did he do? He contributed from his salary and then he collected money from his colleagues and friends who were willing just for an act of charity. And to his dismay, he could collect only 70 pesos. He couldn't collect 100. But then he wrapped that money in an envelope and just make it seem as if it was a reply from God. So he again posted the letter to Lencho. It was for Lencho. Now when Lencho opened that letter, he was not at all shocked. He was not at all shocked because he expected God to reply him. But he was very angry. Why was he angry? He was angry because he thought that God had sent him the amount which he had wanted. God might have sent him 100 pesos. But the people at post office, they were not at all good. They had taken that money. So that is why when he gets angry, he again writes a letter to God conveying his disappointment and distrust in the employees of the post office who he thought had stolen the remaining amount. And when the postmaster, he got the second letter from God, it was a shock for him because he had tried to help Lencho and instead he didn't even get credit for his work. So when the postmaster receives the second letter from Lencho, it was a shock for him because in that letter Lencho had described them as a bunch of crooks. He called them thieves. He wrote the letter to God that he might have sent the money, but he shouldn't send it through post office because the people there are thieves. They have taken his amount. Lencho thinks that the post office employees have taken the rest of his money. And here there is an irony in the situation. The irony is that the people at post office, the employees who really helped Lencho with money, were suspected by him. He calls them a bunch of crooks. The situation is ironic as instead of praising the post office employees for help, he curses them. It's just the opposite of what is expected of him. It is strange and amusing also, but this is because of Lencho's immense faith in God. This lesson shows three things. It shows Lencho's firm faith in God. His faith is rewarded through the helpers are the human beings. Secondly, it shows the utter innocence of the farmer, Lencho. He is so innocent that he believes that God will send him money. And the third and the last lesson which we get from this lesson is that sometimes even your generosity is not recognized. You may not get any credit for your generosity and kindness, but on the other hand, you may be misunderstood as a bunch of crooks. So here the story ends. Hope you have understood this chapter. What did Lencho hope for? Lencho hoped for rains, as the only thing that his field of ripe corn needed was a shower. Why did Lencho say the raindrops were like new coins? Lencho's crops were ready for harvest. However, they required a good downpour before harvesting. After a downpour, he could sell the harvest and get money. That is why he compared the raindrops to new coins. How did the rain change? What happened to Lencho's field? The rain was pouring down, but suddenly a strong wind began to blow and very large hailstones began to fall along with the rain. The hail rained on the valley for an hour, because of which Lencho's fields were destroyed. There was not a single leaf left on the trees and the flowers were gone from the plants. The corn was completely destroyed. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? What did he do? Lencho had faith in God. He had been instructed that God sees everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Therefore, he wrote a letter to God expressing his need for 100 pesos so that he could sow his field again and live until the crop grew again. Who read the letter? When the postman saw that the letter was addressed to God, he laughed and took the letter to the postmaster, who then read it. What did the postmaster do then? In order to keep the writer's faith in God alive, the postmaster decided to answer the letter. When he read that Lencho needed 100 pesos, he asked for money from his employees. He himself gave a part of his salary. He could not gather the entire amount, but managed to send Lencho a little more than half the amount. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho and signed it God.